All right, my friends, I have four big stories for you today. And we're going to start here with this cover of Politico, which I just thought was awesome. And the cover, they asked the questions: Europe is under attack from Russia. Why isn't it fighting back? Well, the answer is partially that part of it is. Like, here's Ukraine. Ukrainian hackers congratulated the occupiers on the anniversary of the Revolution of Dignity in 19 sites of Russian companies in the temporarily occupied territories of Ukraine. Instead of the first pages on its sites, an image of a broken chain was placed. It says, "Freedom, hold on, we'll be back." November 21st, Day of Dignity and Freedom. Okay. And they're fighting back. And there's a spirit behind this as well. In Ukraine, 21 November commemorates the beginning of two pivotal revolutions in Ukraine's history: the Orange Revolution in 2004 and the Euromaidan Revolution of 2013 to 2014. The Euromaidan Revolution started on November 21st, 2013. These events changed the trajectory of the nation and became symbols of unity, resilience, and the fight for democracy. This is Volodymyr Zelensky talking about it. Today is a day of dignity and freedom. We remember the ultimate price paid for Ukrainian freedom, and we do not forget all those throughout different times who fought for Ukraine, becoming a symbol of dignity for the world. Thanks to our people and our nation's unwavering desire to secure Ukraine's freedom and independence, our state will forever remain on the political map of the world, always free, always sovereign. The Ukrainian national anthem says the glory and freedom of Ukraine has not yet perished. Okay, meanwhile, Russia was striking Ukraine with a intercontinental ballistic missile, it looks like, or maybe some close variant. This is what Russia launched onto the people of Ukraine last night. I showed this morning as well. The Ukrainian city of Dnipro became the first city in human history to be struck by an intercontinental ballistic missile. Now, it was not nuclear armed, but it still made quite a bang when it hit. The Defense Express writes that Russia has 521 intercontinental ballistic missiles in land and sea-based versions. Well, 520 now. Actually, it's less than that, and I'll show you in just a moment. The arsenal has been accumulated over 20 years. At the same time, the calculations do not include data on the RS-26, which was probably launched today along the Dnipro. And so it might be something that looks somewhat similar like it, but what's happening is that Putin is trying to launch this to show, see, this is what can happen to you. According to Jay in Kyiv, Russia just sent another ICBM, but it looks to have malfunctioned, crashed somewhere in south-central Ukraine, no longer on radar. Now, my guess is that these missile systems may have been as well kept up as the rest of the Russian military infrastructure. And if that's the case, you just have to wonder how well their nuclear arsenal would work. Now, you don't want to find out the hard way, but it's an open question to how effective it might be. Now, why are they launching ICBMs anyway? For the same reasons that they're showing the killings of POWs as well. Here's the Ukrainian Review. Russia distributes videos of the shootings of Ukrainian soldiers as part of a targeted policy of psychological tea in an attempt to intimidate Ukrainian society, demonstrate the ineffectiveness of international laws. Both things simultaneously, they get kind of a twofer when they violate these norms, these international rules, these international norms. They both feel like they're intimidating and they're breaking these international laws or international norms. Now, I don't think that Ukrainians are actually intimidated by this. I think they're kind of over it. I think they're just willing to just keep pressing on because what else can they do? Okay, big story number 3. Let's look at the Russian economy. Russian Railways has practically stopped cargo transportation in Russia. Russian Railways has stopped sending containers to one of the main container terminals in the Moscow region for 10 days. Terminals are overcrowded and the Moscow Railway is overloaded. Delivery delays are huge. A month is considered a good time. 2 months are no longer uncommon. In most cases, Russian Railways explains the need to leave trains without service by a shortage of rolling stock and locomotive crews. Employees of transport companies explained the company is short 2,500 drivers, said the Deputy General of Russian Railways. I wonder where they went. Now, they have other problems with the economy as well. For example, 5 days ago, the ruble lost its battle with 100. Now it's off to the races. So it's now 101.2 compared to the dollar. And again, just a number of days ago, look at this. This is November 19th. This is 2 days ago. And this is November 21st today, where Jay was saying this here. So just 2 days ago is 100.55. So the trajectory, now you can't just make claims out of the short term, but the trajectory is not looking all that good for the ruble. Now, more than half of Russia's Airbuses do not fly due to engine wear, according to the Russian media. Of the 66 A320s or A321 vessels, 34 are currently idle. The worst situation is at the S7 airline, which does not use 31 of the 39 Airbus aircraft. Like, some companies are hit harder than others, but it's fascinating. They can't service these planes. They can't, like, if they bring them out of the country, getting them back in might be tricky. Like, they have some problems. Now, a sharp-eyed viewer caught an error of mine yesterday, and this is a fascinating error. Let's first listen to what I said, and then I'll tell you what they caught. 34,200 rubles per month. Russians now have an average weekly grocery spend of 8,889 rubles. So that's up by 28% this year. So what does that mean? It means they're spending a quarter of their entire monthly income on groceries. And if you were to compare that, so a quarter of their monthly income on groceries, but I got it wrong. A quarter is for their weekly grocery spend. That means they're spending most of their money on groceries. That's absolutely fascinating. So good on you, Frank, for catching that, and thanks for keeping me honest. I really do appreciate you all when you correct something that I got wrong. Now, the BBC's Steve Rosenberg puts out these little clips of Russian news regularly. Let's hear what the Russian newspapers have to say.
Well, today's Russian papers reflect today's economic problems in Russia. Beginning with inflation. Front page of Nezavisima Gazeta, some products have gone up in price this year by tens of percent. In October, butter was 6.6% more expensive than in September.
That's not 6.6 for the year. That's 6.6% month over month. And people are getting arrested for stealing butter and going to jail.
And 30% more expensive than a year ago. The price of potatoes in October was 65% higher than last year. In sociological surveys, half of people surveyed complain about a noticeable rise in the price of dairy products. A sociologist adds, while failing to achieve its goal of lowering inflation, the Russian central bank is at the same time undermining people's financial standing, making housing and consumer goods less affordable. All of this has a negative effect on Russians' social well-being.
Well, it's not the bank. It's actually what Russia's doing by wildly spending like a drunken sailor to have this war in Ukraine. They don't have to do this, but he's choosing to do this, and this is the net effect on the Russian people.
Moskovsky Komsomolets reports that a festive favourite here, tangerines, are becoming more expensive. A year ago, they cost on average between 60 and 90 rubles a kilo. Today, it's between 100 and 150 rubles. By January, the price of the fruit, a New Year favourite, may jump 50%. Meanwhile,
okay, so you're getting a sense of what's going on there. It's pretty bad, and like, I think I'm just going to have to look at a daily review of troubles in the Russian economy because it's just overwhelming. I see this everywhere, every day. Okay, so this is the Euromaidan press, and the way that they talk about Trump's picks are really interesting. Now, I have my own views, and I'll share them in just a moment, but this is their framing of the issue. Waltz is a Jaguar, Sullivan is a Lada. We examine Trump's cabinet picks with exclusive comments from Washington, D.C. and Zelensky's office, who's totally okay with Trump. Watch the gist here. Totally okay with Trump, what Ukraine really expects from his cabinet picks. Biden's strategy for Ukraine is to kill Ukraine softly. That is, for it not to win, while not allowing it to surrender either. For Trump, Ukraine-related matters were never a top priority and never will be, and he does not shy away from making that clear. His appointments must be viewed through the lens of not who will be Ukraine's cheerleaders, there will be none, but who will be useful to Ukraine. And those are Rubio, Waltz, and Stefanik. They're just that. Marco Rubio is a hawk. Now, I voted for Rubio over Trump in the 2016 primary. I think he is actually a hawk. The question is how much Trump is going to be able to rein Rubio in from a deeply held, ideologically conservative hawkish stance. Just as Mike Waltz, dubbed by one source as a jaguar compared to Sullivan, who is a Lotta. Okay, here we have Waltz, here we have Sullivan. Green Beret, lawyer and national security advisor. Jaguar, Lotta. Their pro-Israel stance is also beneficial to Ukraine. So why didn't they vote for a Ukraine aid bill in April of 2024? Well, none wanted to take an unnecessary risk that could also poorly resonate with their constituents in an environment where the bipartisan deal had already been sealed behind closed doors. The Pentagon's prospective chief, Pete Hegseth, is not just a Fox News host, but also a decorated veteran with a solid education and neutral Ukraine stance. He really hasn't said a lot one way or another, and he said some things that were pro and some things that were a little negative, but I don't know that his focus is really Ukraine. It's really about something completely different, and I talked about that in a previous video. The most problematic picks for Ukraine is Matt Gaetz for Attorney General and Tulsi Gabbard for Director of National Intelligence. Now, I think they get it wrong here when they say they will not deal with Ukraine-related matters if confirmed by the Senate. I think that's fair about Matt Gaetz, but I think Tulsi Gabbard is deeply problematic as a Director of National Intelligence. That's going to be very, very problematic in my estimation. Okay, on day 1002 of a 3-day special military operation, I want to leave you with this image. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.